This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 147, entitled Quiet Wealth with Brooke Oniki. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack, and I'm a certified faith-based life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want you to know that no matter your season or your circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life, and I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm so excited to be here with you and share this conversation with you. I recently sat down with my friend, Brooke Oniki, who is also a certified life coach. She describes herself as a disciple of Christ, wife, mother, mother-in-law, grandma, and friend. She loves being alive and all the beauty and pain that comes with that. She coaches women who want help with loving their relationships with their adult children. I met Brooke a while ago, and I was recently in a workshop that Brooke was leading on the concept that Amber Smith calls quiet wealth. It was a powerful exercise in really taking the time to look at what wealth means and specifically what quiet wealth means. Brooke believes that as we understand this concept better, we can begin creating what we want without sacrificing what we already have. So here is my conversation with Brooke Oniki. All right. I am here with my friend, Brooke Oniki. I'm so excited. She's kind of a newer friend, but an old friend in some ways, because years ago, and I don't know if I know I told you this, Brooke, but I had signed up for some free coaching through Jody, and you
I
were
was
the
your
coach. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, here we are, full circle. I love it so much. So
Yeah.
I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about you and how you came to coaching.
My name, like she said, is Brooke Oniki, and I got married when I was 29, and I had my first baby at 30, and then one at 32 and 34 and 36, and they left as fast as they came, and as they started leaving home, I was like, "Wait a minute, like, now what do you do?" Like, I'm still gonna live for 30 or 40 more years, and it feels like there are things I need to contribute still, and I don't really wanna be needy, like, needing them to come see me and needing right? Like, I wanna be in their lives, but I also want them to be able to live their lives and not be worried about me, and so I started trying to decide what ways I could contribute, and I had been a teacher before, and so I did some substituting, thinking maybe I wanted to go back to teaching school, and that didn't feel very right to me, and I started listening to some coaching, and I thought, "I think I would like to be a coach." I think that so I was it was Jody Moore that I listened to, and I didn't join Be Bold, but I was like, "I think I like what she's doing." So I researched how she became a coach, and I pitched it to my husband that I'd like to go to life coach school, and then I'll try to work for them, and then if it didn't work out, it wouldn't be a loss to us financially, like, I felt like I could at least earn the money back kind of thing, and that was super life-changing, and instead of working for them, I just decided that I wanted to have my own business, and I wanted to be able to incorporate my faith with my coaching and how these tools can help me be closer to God and closer to actually keeping the commandments I'd been asked to keep. Sometimes you feel like you're told to lay your burden down or forgive someone, but it's like, I don't know how to do that exactly. And so
Yes.
I felt like coaching allowed me to have the tools that actually brought together the things I'm supposed to do that I don't always know exactly how to do. So anyway, so I've had my own coaching practice for over 5 years, and I mostly coach women who are transitioning from having kids at home to having adult kids because that was that was sort of where my transformation came. But I do have a handful of men that I coach right now, and sometimes I coach the kids of those people because
Mhm.
they see how it's changed them, and so I coach young adults oftentimes also. So, but
Yeah.
I mostly talk to people in my situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I would say we have a similar niche, very
yeah,
much so. The thing that stood out to me when you're talking was the idea of bringing in your faith with coaching, and I think for me, that was a real thing too, because I feel like as I learned these things, it helped me be more of who I was always trying to be, but not necessarily knowing how. It helped me take actions toward that in a way that made sense.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
learning to
love this.
sorta silence your brain or
Mm,
question or push back on things and not just think everything I thought was true
mhm.
or from God or not from God. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
felt like there was always this fight, and I feel like, in general, my peace has gone way up.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I love that. So recently, I was in a presentation where Brooke was the presenter, and she did this presentation on quiet wealth. I actually went and bought the book that you referenced in that
Uh-huh.
presentation because I it really did resonate with me. So I've asked Brooke to come on and kind of talk about this concept, and so she's gonna be sharing with us, and we're gonna be talking about it as she does so, kind of these concepts that kind of fall under this idea of quiet wealth. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Brooke, to get started, and then we'll just take it from there.
That's great. So, I learned this concept from Amber Smith. She's also a coach, and her thought is we can create the life that we want without sacrificing what we have. Sometimes when people start a business or try to reach some kind of big goal, all of a sudden they neglect their family or they neglect their relationships with other people or their own physical health or sleep or all of the things that we need to create a full and well-rounded life in pursuit of some financial goal or some kind of notoriety that we're looking for. And her premise around quiet wealth is we need to pay attention to all these different areas of our lives in order to create real wealth. And so real wealth isn't me showing off or being loud. It's me creating the things that I value most and finding wealth in things that have nothing to do with money. And it doesn't mean you don't make money. It just means that we don't focus so much on money that we neglect the other things because as we're being that full round well-rounded person, we actually attract other people who want to create that kind of life as well. I'm sure you've had this experience, Jill, where you've met someone that you had built up in your mind to be this perfect person, and then you meet them and find they maybe aren't as compassionate as you thought, or they don't value the same things that you do, and all of a sudden it feels disappointing, right? And so what is important to me is that I actually embody the things that I espouse, right? That you would meet me and not go, "Oh,
Yeah.
she she's not that really interested in her family or interested in her marriage, or she's not fully present. She seems distracted by it." You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
just learning how
Yeah,
to be that person that you're trying to teach other people to be,
yeah,
right? And so what happened to me early on in my coaching was and I think this is typical, people would reach out and say, "Well, I can only see you at 8 o'clock in the morning." And I would go, "Okay. All right, I'll be there," right? Or, "I
yeah.
can only see you at 7 o'clock at night." And so all of a sudden, I was seeing people at any time that they could see me, and I was spending all kinds of hours on my business, and I was traveling, I was speaking, and it was really great, and I was earning more money, and I was excited about that. But I also wasn't exercising as much, I wasn't studying the scriptures as much as I wanted to. I was all of a sudden sort of so focused on my job and creating the business that I wanted that my other parts of my life were suffering. And after like the most money I had made in a year happened, which was a few years ago. I was like, I don't I don't feel like this is in alignment with who I want to be exactly. It's out of balance for me. And so this is even before I had ever met Amber, but I decided that at the beginning of that year, I had a long conversation with my husband, and financially, I don't need to be a life coach, but he loves that I'm doing something that's important to me and that's contributing in the world. And so I'm blessed and privileged in that way that it's not like something I have to do. But I decided I need to prioritize these other things. And so I hired a personal trainer because I've had lots of problems with my back. And now I have a grandchild and I want to be able to take care of her and swing her around and go down the slide with her and like do all of the things that she wants to do. And so I thought I have got to be stronger. And I had worked with a trainer before, but I thought I'm going to go 3 days a week so that I really get in the exercise that I need. And I decided I wasn't going to take any clients before 10 in the morning, and I wasn't going to see any clients after 6 p.m. And I had a client who was working on prison reform, and she suggested that I start teaching life coaching classes in the prison. And you don't get paid to do that. But I thought, I would love to do that. And so I went through all the volunteer paperwork and training that I needed to go to. And now I've been teaching classes at the men's facility at the Utah State Prison since September. And that has been super rewarding. And I decided I'm going to post less on social media. And if that means I make less money and less people know about me, that's okay because I wanna spend the evenings doing stuff with my husband, and, like, we're empty nesters now, like, so every night can be date night. Like, every night we
Yeah.
can do fun things together, right? But if I'm always working and trying to catch up with these things or whatever, then I'm neglecting the people that I really love the most,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so it didn't feel in alignment. So I just quit doing some of I mean, I still do it, but not daily like I was
Mhm.
before. And I've tried to prioritize my sleep, and I hired a nutritionist to help me with just learning how I didn't know anything about macros and protein, and, like, I just thought, I just wanna figure out those kinds of things because I don't wanna get to 70 and go, "Oh, I have osteoporosis," and I wanna learn what I need to learn to give myself the best chance of being a really emotionally sound, spiritually sound older person.
Mhm.
And then I decided I wanna babysit my granddaughter once a week, and I was already doing that, but just really focusing on, like, I do that because I want to, not because I need to or have to or but that's something that I want because I want that relationship with her. So those were some of the decisions I made to create a framework around my life the way I wanted it. And then I met Amber, and she was teaching these concepts of quiet wealth, and I'm like, that's what I want. That is she's speaking to me in that way. And so this little book, it's just a mini book that she wrote, which you have now, Jill,
Yes,
right?
I do. I have. Yes.
And in that book, this quote just hit me so much. It says, "A fit body, a calm mind, a house full of love. These things cannot be bought. They must be earned." And so I think it's so fascinating, right? Like, we earn a house full of love by the way we treat the people we live with
Mhm.
and the time that we invest in them, right? And we earn a fit body through making efforts to take care of her and feed her and nourish her and give her the water she needs and moving her right and giving her sleep and all of those kinds of things and a
Yeah.
calm mind from doing what we need to spiritually to really connect with God and connect with nature and just be still, and all of those things are quiet wealth.
Yeah. Something that just popped in my mind as you were reading that was and, you know, you can feel the emotion behind what you're speaking about, but it's not a I think sometimes when we hear the word earn, there's kind of a pressure about it, but this is like a quiet, gentle earning, if that makes
Yes.
sense. I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but it's like sometimes we envision earning as like you're working so hard and you're putting all this effort in, and yes, it's effort, but it's a peaceful effort. It's an aligned effort,
Right.
right?
Like, I had a woman in my neighborhood who she loves fitness, and she has taught fitness classes for years and years because she really loves it, and she got breast cancer, was diagnosed a few years ago, but the beauty of that was she recovered so quickly because she had decided that taking care of herself was a priority. And so it doesn't mean we won't ever have trials. It just means that if we prepare ourselves, it's like a gift we give to our future selves that when that trial comes, I'm more prepared for it.
Mhm.
Right? If I have built relationships with the people I love, and then we go through a hardship like a death or a medical diagnosis or some other family challenge, like, I'm not starting from, like, "Oh, now we need to really pull together," right? We've already pulled together, and so when the hardship comes, we're more prepared. My dear cousin, she and I are best friends, and her husband passed away when he was 40, and she said, "If we would have decided then, okay, now we're gonna start saying family prayer and doing scripture study," she said, "it would have been so big and hard, there's no way we could have implemented that in our time of need. But because we had implemented it years before, it became a lifeline to us
Yeah.
when the need was there because we had already we had already decided that that was what we wanted. And so if you think, "Oh, I don't have a fit body and I don't have a calm mind," it's not too late, right? We just get to decide, like, I can work on that right now when I'm in a time of peace, right? So that I can be
Yeah.
prepared when things become challenging. And so I just think rather than wait till you have a heart attack to decide you want a fit body, like, let's work on it while I'm still young enough and well enough and right? And I've even seen women in their 70s, like, work on those kinds of things,
Yeah.
but we just get to decide, and it doesn't mean I'm gonna, like, be in bodybuilding shows or anything like that, but I'm just doing things to make sure that I have better balance. So, like, I've had even experiences where I've tripped in recent years, and I was able to catch myself, and I really believe it's because I'm stronger than I was, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just those kinds of things, so when I think a fit body, it's not like, you know,
Yeah.
but
Muscle building, but yeah, just
right, it's
you're
just
caring
me
for it.
yeah, me taking care of myself
Yeah.
and nourishing myself in good
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah. I love that.
Do you have any more thoughts about that?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I love how you said that is quiet wealth, right? It's those things that we're investing our time in that in the long run, that yeah, that's the wealth of life.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the earning thing because it is like planting a garden, really. Like we exercise our faith that as we water a garden, it will grow, and we don't run out every day and pull up the plants to see if the roots are growing, right?
Right.
We just keep watering. And so watering our family, watering our health, watering our spiritual growth, it doesn't seem like it's changing really,
Yeah.
right? And I think in quiet wealth, that concept, it's just me nurturing those things every day and not being concerned if it's working. Like, I'm
Yes.
gonna trust that it's working as I make effort in all these areas every day, just a little bit of effort that eventually that bucket of, drops of effort in each bucket, it will be filled, and I don't need to worry that it's not doing anything. I just keep
Right.
trusting that those efforts will pay off,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it's needed.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
So the next thought is there are a lot of things money can do and a lot of things money cannot do. And so focusing on money all the time will make it so I can do some things, but there are some things I cannot do, right? And so I just need to be sure that I don't have my focus so skewed that all of a sudden I produce one thing that I wanted, but neglect some of these other things that money can't buy.
Yeah.
So tell me, Jill, what are some things that you want in your life that money can't buy?
Yeah, I think, that's a good one. I just go outside in the sunshine, like, just being outside doesn't cost me a thing, right? Relationships, being with people, I went and visited a lady in my neighborhood, and we just chatted for 2 hours. But it was beautiful, and it doesn't cost a thing. I mean, it costs gas to get there, I guess, and you have to have a car, but as a general thing, it doesn't cost a thing. I think it's time and yeah, moving my body doesn't all those things that you listed in
Yeah.
the beginning are all those things I think many people desire, and when we can step back and view that as, they really don't take much money, but yet they bring so much abundance into our life.
Yeah. So I love baking. I had worked in bakeries through high school and college, and I find it to be very therapeutic. And I was diagnosed with celiac in 2012, I think. And
Mhm.
then a couple of my daughters were diagnosed with it. So we have all this wheat food food storage, just whole wheat. So in the past year, I bought a grinder about 6 years ago, and I just have ground up all this wheat, and I make bread, whole wheat bread. It's a really great recipe, and I take it around to my neighbors and people that I love and
Mhm.
visit them, and I find that to just bring me so much
Mhm.
pleasure. It
Yeah.
doesn't cost hardly anything because there's hardly any ingredients in it, and I'm
Yeah.
using up all this wheat that I have that I can't feed to my own family,
Yeah.
and people don't have homemade bread hardly any anymore,
Mhm.
right? Like, and so
Yes.
it seems like such a treat to them, and and then we get to visit a little bit, and it just fills me up to do things like that. And so for me, that is another, like, quiet wealth that I can experience that just feels really nourishing to my soul.
Yeah.
Now, my husband, on the other hand, like, a long visit with someone is he doesn't mind a short visit, but he's not, he would rather, like, text someone to let them know he's thinking about them,
Yeah.
or if he knows they like some special treat, like dropping off. We have a guy that lives down the street, and I did not even know this, but this man told me once, "Your husband's brought me a chili dog more than once, because that's my favorite thing."
Right, I
And
love
so
that.
right, and so he
Yeah.
quietly goes about doing good in those ways, or
Yeah.
he just does things that really suit his personality, and he serves in ways that align with
Mhm.
him, and he's
Yeah.
even told me, "I'm just not the bread baking type." But
Yeah.
he'll make brownies for somebody, and then we'll take them, and people will go, "Oh, Brooke, that was so nice of you." And I'm like, "I didn't do that.
Wasn't me.
He did it." Right? And so I just think it's really important for us to, for some people, it might be going on a walk alone and listening to a podcast or listening to
Mhm.
music, that feels like quiet wealth. And other
Yeah.
people, they wanna be on a walk with a friend, or some people wanna go and have a really good workout, or go buy themselves, an acai bowl and
Yeah.
read a book, or do you know what I mean? Like, we just have
Yes.
to really know ourselves, and, like, what is it that feels nurturing to me?
Mhm.
I love it when my kids come home to visit and they sit at the counter and talk to me while I chop up stuff for dinner. Like, I don't even need to have them chop with me.
Yeah.
Just having them sit with me and talk about their lives, it just fills me, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so just notice, like, what are some things in your life that feel like quiet wealth, and then figure out how to cultivate that, like, create those times. I decided a while ago, there's this lady who lives about 3 blocks from me, and I knew her, but not super well, but I've always thought we would be really good friends. And so about 6 months ago, I texted her and said, "I wanted to be your friend for so long. Can we go on a walk?" And
Oh,
she
I
said,
love
"Yes."
that.
And so now we're walking once a week together, and it has just been so fantastic for me. We
Yeah.
have the best conversations, and I just think it's been a blessing to both of us. But
Yeah.
I had to decide what I wanted, and she could have said, "No, I'm too busy," and then I would have had to think, "Well, there who else? Who else
Yeah.
do I wanna be?" Right? Because there are
Yeah.
always people, and we have to find a want match, right? Someone else who also wants to have that kinda connection, and not
Yeah.
everybody does, right? But we can find people who are like us, and then create that quiet wealth
Yeah.
for ourselves.
Yeah. I love that. I think one thing I do with people is I encourage them to build a joy list, and I
Uh-huh.
think that's this, right? Like, what are those things that just bring you joy? And maybe there's something that and I give an example of, like, just standing outside, like today, the sky is blue and the sun is shining, and it's like, for me, 30 seconds just standing out there in between things just fills me up with so much joy, but then other times it's the hour walk or,
Right.
or the snowshoe or whatever, like, find things that fit all kinds of time boundaries, right?
Right.
So that you can infuse it into your day for what fits that day.
I love that.
Yeah,
So good. So we'll just talk about some principles of quiet wealth, and you can ask any questions that you have, or if we're run out of time, we'll just do as many as we can. So
yeah,
in this book, she talks about an abundance frame of mind, elemental productivity, and your ideal calendar. So we'll just talk about those for a
yeah,
minute.
perfect.
So the abundance frame of mind is practicing gratitude for what is. So oftentimes we think, oh, I'll be happy when my business reaches a certain point, or my kids are all going to church, or I've got so many grandkids, or as soon as these kids leave the house, or as soon as me and my husband are on better terms, or whatever it is, right? We're always waiting for something to be different. As soon as we retire, as soon as lose this 10 pounds, right? We have these ideas that happiness is out there, but I can't have it right now. So when we have gratitude for what is, we can experience more joy every single day. So probably the best way that I've been able to do this is to learn how to appreciate my body more. I had a lot of issues with body image growing up. I'm 5'8", which is not gigantic, but I was like 5'8" in the 8th grade. And I liked a boy who was shorter than me, and I was so sad. And so I just always felt like I was so big, and anyway, and so I spent a lot of time wishing I was smaller, but as I started coaching and started changing my thoughts around my body and feeling more love for her, like, I feel so different about my body now, which is nothing short of miraculous
Yeah,
because I spent so many years filled with disdain for her.
mhm,
But one thing I learned at a meditation retreat that I went to with Thomas McConkey, he had us do what he called a hand bath, which is kind of a funny name,
mhm,
but we sat down and he had us just, like, run a hand, like, over our arm and to our fingers and touching our neck and touching our legs and just, like, feeling gratitude for every like, an elbow. Isn't that amazing, right? That we can bend our arms
yeah,
and pick things up and bring them to our mouths and wash our hair, and right, like,
yeah,
as you go through all these parts of your body and think about how they work so perfectly. And I've been having some problems with my right shoulder, and I'm having a really hard time sleeping, and every night I'm like, I can't believe, like, I haven't been why am I not every day just falling to my knees in gratitude for all these parts of my body that have worked so efficiently for
yeah,
so long, you know? So
yeah,
I think having gratitude for what is in your relationships, for what is like, if you have a strained relationship with someone, just knowing they're still here, like we still have time to repair, and I can change my mindset, and I can have more appreciation, and I can be grateful that we can keep working at this.
Mm.
And and even a business, like, isn't it great that I can keep learning and growing and putting myself out there and figuring out what resonates with people and what doesn't, and so we can just have gratitude for what's going on right now,
Yeah.
and have faith. Another concept that's an abundance frame of mind is having faith that everything's working, which is like watering the plants, right? That all the efforts I make, like my granddaughter's 3, and sometimes I think, "Is she even gonna remember any of this?" Like, I've spent a lot of time with her, and she may not, but I do think that it sort of is in the fiber of her being that I have been with her.
Mm.
Right, and so even
Yeah.
if she doesn't have conscious memory of it, that I have faith that our relationship is growing deeply from her birth to now, right? And
Yeah.
so I I think sometimes people think, "Well, I'll pay attention to them when they're older and more fun."
Yeah.
Or more interesting, right? But I have faith that all the efforts that we make all their lives are gonna make a difference, and it's making a difference in my relationship with my son and daughter-in-law because they see how
Mhm.
much I love her,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
they feel my love for her, and so it's affecting all these other,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
relationships, and it's taken a while for her to warm up to my husband, and now she just hugs him when she comes in, right? Like, so we just have to have faith that as we just keep planting seeds and investing in those relationships that they are growing.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
And then another concept is practicing non-judgment. So sometimes when in a scarcity mindset, we're like, "Oh, they're doing better than I'm doing," or their relationship is better with, like when my son got married, like, "Oh, what if they love the in-laws more than us?" or whatever. Like, just enjoying and not like, aren't we glad that they can have lots of good relationships? And as they decide what they want in their family, not judging it as like, are they doing it the way we want them to? Are they deciding to live the gospel the same way we live the gospel? Like
Yes.
letting go of those kinds of things and allowing people to live their own lives and walking with them and and it goes with this last one of awakened presence, like just being present with them and being curious and interested in why they think the way they do. And
Mhm.
my son and I went to lunch this week, and we think a lot alike politically, but I was super interested in, like, where do you think you started forming those judgments? Like, I don't we never talked about this when you were a kid so
Yeah.
much. So,
Yeah.
like, tell me about when you became interested and w and what contributed to that, and right?
Yeah.
And so it's just so fun to have conversations with them
Yeah.
and kind of understand where they are and how they got there and not judging it, just being
Yeah.
interested and learning and
You know what stands out to me as I look at this, the diagram that Brooke has on this, underneath all of this, I think for me is when we can let go of fear, we make room for abundance. Because if you look at each one of these things, right, the opposite is tied to fear somehow,
yeah.
right? Which prevents us from being present, being grateful, having faith, not judging. Like all of those things tie back to this fear. Like if we are afraid of something and what that means for us, it's going to affect our ability to live in a place of abundance.
So true.
Yeah. So I
Because
love that.
fear is such a scarcity mindset, right?
Mhm.
And when we just trust that, even it doesn't mean things won't go wrong, but if they do, like, we'll know what to do and we'll be able to figure it out and we'll be able to solve the problems that come to us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I love that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. So let's go on to the next thing, which is elemental productivity. So Amber submits that there are four aspects of our lives that we must tend to. So she labels them as fire, water, earth, and air. So fire is like productivity in business, career, your finances. So it could be your job. It could be if you're an entrepreneur, but we all have some sort of creative outlet. Even if we don't have a job, like where we're earning money, it could even be your motherhood, right? Because you run a
Yes.
business. You run
Yeah.
a business as a mother, or you run a household. Even when your kids are gone, you might still feel like, okay, I do a lot of volunteer work, or I have causes that I care about, or right. So anything that is your sort of the motivation behind your creativity is the fire that you
Mhm.
have. So for me, it's my business, but it's also like my church calling. It's the way I give back in the world, right? So that's my fire. Then
Mhm.
water is the balance in your relationships. So the relationships you have with your family and your neighbors and your extended family. Earth is your body. So you're grounded and energized. Right, what I do with my body, nourishing it physically, and also take the movement and the things that I do to take care of my physical body. And then air is the spirituality, like, how do I connect spiritually with
Mhm.
God, with myself, with sort of my inner knowing and being guided by the spirit and those kinds of things.
Mhm. I
So
love
the
that.
idea is that we do some things in each of these areas every day so that we're watering all these gardens. And it's not like hours and hours worth. It's just deciding I'm going to do one kind of input and one kind of output in each area, except for relationships. Relationships is just like focusing on 2 relationships every day. So let me give you some examples.
Okay.
So you would choose 2 in each area. One's a consumption and input goal, like, so I'm gonna learn something, or I'm gonna feed myself something nourishing, or I'm going to listen to something, right? Something that I'm taking in, and
Mhm.
then one creation. So something I'm going to an output goal. Right?
Mhm.
And the other concept is that we're going to add rather than subtract. So we're not gonna say my consumption goal is to not eat sugar, right?
Mhm.
Because that's an subtraction. My
Yeah.
consumption goal is gonna be, I'm gonna eat 3 servings of vegetables,
Mhm.
right? It's something that I'm going to add to my life, and in an input kind of way, and also in a creation kind of way.
Yeah.
So I'll
Okay.
give you some examples. So in the fire or the business area, it could be like, I'm going to read a chapter in my marketing book, which would be an input. I'm going to learn more about marketing. And an output would be, I'm going to write an Instagram post, right? Or I could read some book about parenting adults or something and write an Instagram post about that. Or do your podcast, right? That's an output goal, something I'm creating to share what I've learned with other people.
Yeah.
And then earth, which is taking care of my physical body. I'm going to drink a green smoothie, which is an input, and I'm going to lift some weights, which is an output. Right. So,
Love
or
it.
I'm going to drink water, or I'm going to eat vegetables, or I'm going to, whatever I'm going to do. And then I'm going to do something. I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going
Yeah.
to do some breath work. I'm going to do, right, something like that.
Yeah.
Stretching, yoga, a million things, right, that we can
Yeah.
do, right? And
Yes.
then air is something spiritual, right? So I'm gonna read a conference talk. That would be an inward, taking something in, and meditating for 10 minutes would be an outward thing, or
Mhm.
saying a prayer, praying out loud, or give doing some active service, or even writing a post about something you learned, right? Like those,
Yes.
that would be an output, or sharing something I learned with someone else, or having
Yeah.
a conversation with someone about those things that I learned
Yeah.
would be an output.
Yeah. The thing I love about that is it feel and I remember you talking about this and then reading about this. It just feels so it's almost got this natural flow to it, right? It's
Right.
just like it's kind of this cycle of in and out. It's just I don't know, I just think
Yeah,
it
and I don't think it feels like, "Oh, these are too hard to do."
yeah.
Like, right? Like, it's not like we're adding a layer of work on it's just like, this is what creates quiet wealth. When I pay some attention to my body and I pay some attention to my spiritual well-being and some attention to my relationships and some attention to my business, rather than getting up and spending all day long working out, right? Like, okay, you could go
Mhm.
work out for 8 hours and just only focus on your body, right? But how does that cause your other parts of your life to suffer?
Yeah.
Right? Or
It brings
even
you
reading
out of
your scriptures
balance.
all day. Like, that sounds nice, but it's not actually gonna help anyone if I just sit in my house and read my scriptures,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
right? I've gotta be doing some things to t to reach out to the people around me and
Yes.
show love, right? And embody, right? Jesus didn't just sit and read the scriptures,
Right.
right? And so if we're trying to be like him, like we have to be among the people and
Yeah.
loving and caring and listening and
Mm.
being a part of other people's lives.
Yeah. I
So
love
then the
that.
water one is the relationships, and that instead of an input, we can just say, I'm going to focus on 2 relationships a day. So I always focus on my husband and then one of my kids.
Mm. I
Try to
love
make
that.
sure that I reach out to one of them or in some way.
Yeah.
And then make sure I spend some time, quality time with my husband. And that one actually I have to really think about because sometimes I take him for granted.
Mhm. It's easy to do, right? The
Yeah.
people we love the most, sometimes we take them for granted because they're just always there.
Right.
Yeah, so
So
this
Amber
fits
talks
that.
about she sends a text to her husband every single morning when he leaves for work and just tells him one thing she loves about him. So
Yeah,
she makes sure that that little drop is of nourishment happens every single day.
yeah,
And then of course they have other interactions as well, but for sure she's put a drop in that bucket every morning
yeah.
with him,
Oh,
which I
that's
think is a great
beautiful.
idea.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much time or effort, right? It's
Right.
doing things that are just normal, natural that maybe you just don't get around to. It's just putting a little intention
Right.
behind something. Yeah, I
And then
love
I
that.
love the idea that we commit to the activity rather than the results.
Mhm.
So we're not gonna worry like, "Am I doing enough?" Right? I'm just gonna every day, I'm gonna commit to the activity, and over time, it just grows
Yeah,
because that's what happens, right? When we
yeah,
commit to something, over time, we develop stronger relationships, right? If I send a text telling my husband something I love about him every day, how could that not make our relationship better?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Or
so
spending time thinking about why I love my kids and things
mm,
I appreciate about them, how could that not help us in the
yeah,
long run?
yeah,
Or spending time going on a walk every day, like, over time, that is just going to help my body be healthier and stronger,
yeah,
right? And so as we keep committing to that, we'll just see miracles
yeah,
happen in all
yeah.
these different areas of our life.
I love it. It makes me think of I recently gave a talk about the topic's not important, but the thing that was I was comparing or thinking of the Savior, how he did things drop by drop. Wasn't big, huge things, right? And he often taught about, like, planting seeds and dough, right? Yeast in dough. Like,
Right.
it's these little things that make something bigger. So, I love that. Just little by little, it's gonna grow into something bigger.
Yeah. And then I don't are any of your listeners business owners?
They could be. They're mostly just I don't know. I mean, midlife
Okay.
women is kind of the
Right.
audience that I go to, but I know that there's people that aren't midlife that listen. So,
Okay. So the
yeah.
next concept is your ideal calendar, and it's sort of focused on people who have businesses, right? Like you kind of decide how much time do I want to spend, but I guess it can work for anyone. How much time do I
Yeah.
want to spend doing these certain things? And
Yeah.
I can look at my calendar and say, am I doing that? Right? And if I'm not, every week, if I look at it and say, I spent more time than I wanted to on this,
Mm.
like I spend more time on my phone than I want to, right?
Yeah.
So if I look at my ideal calendar, I could say, if I decided to not look at like, only look at emails twice a day or right? Like, just
Yes.
look at my calendar and see where I'm spending my time, and then every week trying to make one adjustment to make my calendar more aligned with what I wanna create,
Yeah.
right? So, if wanna spend more time some people wanna spend more time working on their job or their and some people wanna spend less, and so you have to decide, "If I want less, like, how could I create the same amount of money and spend less time doing it? Could I start a group? Could I do a some kind of membership that we just meet once a week and I have, people where I have consistent income coming in with something like that?" Or it could be a situation where like, "Oh, I spend time watching a lot of Netflix or something like that. I don't wanna spend as much time doing that. What do I wanna take a class? Do I wanna learn, you know, a
Mm,
craft of some sort?" When
yeah.
I was watching my granddaughter the other day, we were gonna go watch my nephew play. He plays basketball for Murray High School, and so I
Uh-huh.
said to Emmy, "We're gonna go watch a basketball game," and she said, "Are you playing in it?" And I thought that was so funny.
So
And I
cute.
said, "No, grandma's not playing. We're gonna go watch Sven play." And then I realized her mom plays in a rec league. And I thought, "Oh, isn't that great?" Like, she thinks, "Well, my mom plays, so why doesn't grandma play?"
Yeah, made
And
total sense to her.
right, and so I thought, "Isn't that cute?" Right? We can model, like, what do I wanna spend my time doing?
Yeah.
Do I wanna I play pickleball with some women in my neighborhood, and they play every morning, and we can sign up on a group meet every Sunday night for the days we wanna play,
Mhm.
and it's been so fun. I've gotten to know all these ladies, and I'm getting better at pickleball, and then I hurt my shoulder, and so I had to stop, and I'm feeling like I miss what I was able to do, but we get to pick, like, what
Yeah.
lights us up and what do I wanna put in my calendar? Do I wanna put more walks in? Do I wanna invite people in my neighborhood to go on walks and get to know some more people? Do I wanna I'm having a book club in a couple of weeks, and we're talking about Steve Young's book, The Law of Love, because I think it's so, so good for parents to learn how to have that kinda love for their but I just decided, "Oh, that sounds like a fun thing to do," so I'm doing a
Mhm.
virtual one, and I'm doing one at my house, and so, like, that's just a way to gather people and create community and bring more love into our lives and our relationships, and so just recognizing what is my ideal calendar, and then every day or every week, just trying to adjust it a little more to create the calendar that you want.
Yeah.
Letting go
I
of the stuff that doesn't matter and getting more of the stuff that you want.
Yeah, I love that, and I think even if you work full time and you have, some limited hours later, I think it's even more applicable because it's being intentional with those hours that you do
That you
have
have.
that you
Yeah.
do have, and I think for many women, I don't know why, but there is sometimes I think we let the calendar control us instead of creating that ideal calendar like you're teaching, so I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's fun.
yeah.
Alright, so just in summary then, every day choose an input and an output in your physical, spiritual what's the other one? Not your relationships, because that's not an input.
Business?
Your business, right? And and then in the 4th area, in your relationships, just focus on 2 relationships that you want to nurture, and then every week, identify how you could move closer to your ideal calendar. And then every month, take time to write, like, "If all things were possible, what would I love? What's working, and what do I wanna change?"
Yeah,
Right? And so every month, if we're trying to move towards more of what we wanna create, we'll just have more and more of that quiet wealth in our
yeah,
lives.
yeah, I love that, and I love this that it just feels so expansive, right? If all things were possible, what would I love? And just what's working, what do I wanna change? Like, it's just kinda this evolving thing, and I guess that is that's creation, right? You're creating your life when you can approach it this way.
And sometimes I think we have things so in a box that we have a hard time like we maybe have the idea, well, if I can't study the scriptures for an hour, then I'm not going to study
Yes.
them. Or if I can't go on a walk for a whole hour, then it's not worth going. But
Yes.
I actually had someone coach me years ago, and she's like, well, I just go out and walk in my work clothes. Like I just go walk around the block, and then I have another call, and then I walk around the block, and then I was like, you can do that? Like I think you're supposed to be in your exercise clothes
Yeah.
and no makeup on, and like that's the only way it's really exercise. But
Yeah.
that has helped me because now I walk sometimes in the afternoon. Like I might have a break for an hour and I'll go on a walk and then come back and work some more.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I, only was able to read the scriptures for a few minutes before, but I can listen to a podcast on something as I'm driving somewhere else. Like just allowing yourself to, or sometimes I feel kind of out of sorts and I'll listen to those new hymns that just came
Yeah.
out, and I can just put those on my phone and listen to them as I drive somewhere, and I can feel like just peace come into my car, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not formal scripture study, but it's me inviting God into my day
Yeah.
and into my life and into my heart.
Yeah.
And and then I find myself waking up with those songs in my mind, and so I just think there are so many ways that we can input that aren't, the traditional, I spent all these hours outlining conference talks or
Yes.
whatever it is
Yes.
that we think is the right way
Yeah.
to do it. But
Yeah.
I think if we can think outside of, and certainly those are important things to do, and I like to spend time doing those things when I can, but on a day that I can't, I don't have to decide, so I can't do it at all.
Right. Yeah. There's a lady named Brooke Snow that calls it the floors and ceilings. And just as and I think it could fit here, like when you're deciding what your input is, maybe, what's my minimum input that I can
Yeah.
do? And what's my ideal input? Right? And then what's a minimum output and what's my ideal output? And then give yourself space between the two, right? It just gives you
'Cause
so
some
many
days your
options.
output's gonna be lower and
Yeah.
smaller, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
but
love
that's
that.
okay too.
I love that. This is so good. Thank you so much for sharing this, Brooke.
Oh,
So
it was my
wonderful.
pleasure.
Yeah, so good. So if people want to follow you and learn more about you, where can they go to do that?
Well, my website is www.brookeoniki.com. That's
Okay.
BROOKEON, like Nancy,
Okay.
IKI.com. And there are several free resources there. So if you have challenges with any of your relationships, you can just listen to a lot of videos that I've
Okay.
created about different hard things that
Yeah.
we go through as moms. So you can go there, or I'm on Instagram and Facebook,
Okay.
and it's just Brooke Oniki Coaching on Instagram and Brooke Web Oniki on
Okay.
Facebook. So
Okay. And I'll put all those links in the show notes so people can find those easy. But I think this is such a valuable topic today because I think we live in I was thinking about this, such a productive, productivity, efficient, obsessed world, trying to get more and more and more, where this is just like we can soften that pressure and just create something more peaceful in our lives. So thank you for
and it's
sharing
fun
this.
to just notice, like, this is quiet wealth. Like, I'll say that
Yeah.
many times in a week, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, like, even when I go to lift weights and I lift something really heavy
Yeah.
and I can just feel my body working, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, this
Yes.
is quiet wealth." Like, it just
Yes.
feels good. Or playing
Feels
pickleball and
good.
thinking, "I love these women so much. This is
Yes.
quiet wealth." Or sitting next to my
Yes.
husband while we watch a basketball game because we
Mm.
like doing that. Like,
Yes.
just at the end of the day, or like last night, just getting in bed and just laying there and talking to him last night,
Mhm.
just like that is quiet wealth. It is
Yeah.
such a gift.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here. Yeah, I know that someone is going to take away some beautiful concepts today that will help them be a creator of quiet wealth. So, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends and family. If you want to learn more about me or how to work with me, just visit my website, www.seasons-coaching.com, and have a joyful week.